first, Highway of Shadows, Jack had always been a night owl, so it was no surprise when he took up truck driving as his profession. He relished the solitude of the open road, the hum of the engine, and the freedom of the highway under the moonlight. But one fateful night, his solitude was shattered when he saw her standing by the side of the road. The woman, dressed in a tattered white dress, was waving for a ride. Jack couldn't resist her desperate pleas and pulled over. She climbed into the cab, and as the truck rumbled back onto the highway, he couldn't help but notice the fear in her eyes. Their journey began quietly, with the woman occasionally glancing out the window as if expecting someone or something. Jack's unease grew with each passing mile. He tried to engage her in conversation, but she remained tight-lipped, her eyes darting nervously around the cab. As the night wore on, the woman's behavior became increasingly erratic. She muttered to herself in a language Jack couldn't understand and clutched a small, ornate box in her hands. The box seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, the truck's headlights flickered, and the engine sputtered. Jack's heart raced as he realized they were no longer alone on the road. Dark, shadowy figures began to appear on either side of the highway, keeping pace with the truck. Their eyes glowed with an eerie, malevolent light. Jack knew he had to get out of this nightmare. He slammed on the gas pedal, but the truck's speed remained constant. The woman beside him continued to mutter, her grip on the box tightening. It was then that Jack understood she was the source of the terror. Desperation consumed him as he struggled to regain control of the truck. The shadowy figures drew closer, their presence suffocating. With one final burst of adrenaline, Jack wrested control of the truck and swerved off the highway. The woman screamed, her grip on the box breaking, and the shadows vanished into the night. The truck came to a stop in a desolate field. Jack and the woman were shaken but alive. She explained that the box held a malevolent spirit that had haunted her for years, and she had hoped to rid herself of it by sacrificing Jack. But in the end, it was Jack's determination to survive that saved them both. Second story. The haunting freight Mike had been a trucker for over a decade, and he thought he'd seen it all. But nothing could have prepared him for the night he was tasked with transporting a mysterious crate shrouded in legend. The job seemed straightforward enough: pick up the crate from a remote warehouse and deliver it to an undisclosed location. As Mike made his way through the dark, winding roads of the countryside, a sense of unease settled over him. The crate, covered in ancient symbols, seemed to radiate an unnatural chill. Mike couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Hours passed, and the strange occurrences began. Faint whispers echoed through the cab, unintelligible voices that sent shivers down Mike's spine. He glanced in the rearview mirror, and for a fleeting moment, he saw a spectral figure seated in the back of the truck. Doubt gnawed at him as he questioned his sanity. But then, the figure became more distinct, a ghostly presence, its eyes fixed on Mike. Panic welled up inside him as he realized that the legend surrounding the crate was true. It held a malevolent spirit that was now haunting him. Desperate to escape, Mike floored the accelerator, but the truck's engine protested, and the spectral figure drew closer. It whispered eerie warnings and threats, promising to never let him go. Mike's heart pounded as he pushed the truck to its limits, weaving through the dark forest roads. Suddenly, a blinding light engulfed the truck, and a deafening roar filled the air. The crate in the back shattered into pieces. Releasing the vengeful spirit, it enveloped the truck, clawing at Mike, and the road itself seemed to crumble beneath them. In a final act of desperation, Mike slammed on the brakes, sending the truck careening off the road and into a ravine. The world went dark. When Mike awoke, he was battered and bruised but alive. The truck lay in ruins, and the crate was nowhere to be seen. The malevolent spirit had been vanquished, but at a heavy cost. Mike knew he'd never forget that night, and the haunting freight that had almost claimed his soul. Third story. The midnight convoy. Sarah was no stranger to long-haul trucking, but nothing could have prepared her for the night when a powerful storm forced her onto an unfamiliar, remote road. Lightning flashed, illuminating the desolate landscape as she followed the winding path into the heart of darkness. As the rain poured down and thunder rumbled, Sarah noticed a line of trucks up ahead. They were unlike any she had seen before, their designs and license plates harkening back to a bygone era. Confusion gripped her as she pulled in behind them, wondering how such vintage vehicles could be on the road. Inside her cab, Sarah listened to the CB radio, but the other drivers were silent. Their trucks moved in eerie unison, and their drivers remained hidden in the shadows. Panic gnawed at her as she realized that this was no ordinary convoy. The storm grew more intense, and the road seemed to stretch on endlessly. Sarah's attempts to break free from the convoy were futile. The vintage trucks closed in around her, hemming her in. She couldn't see their drivers' faces, but she could feel their malevolent presence as the night wore on. Sarah's fear deepened. The vintage trucks emitted a low, haunting hum, and their headlights flickered with an unnatural glow. She tried to call for help, but her phone had no signal, and the CB radio remained dead. In a moment of desperation, Sarah swerved her truck onto a narrow dirt path, hoping to escape the convoy, but the vintage trucks followed, their engines growling like beasts. It was then that she realized the terrifying truth: the convoy was not made up of ordinary trucks, but of spectral entities. Sarah's heart raced as she navigated the treacherous terrain, the vintage trucks relentlessly pursuing her. It was a battle of wills, between the living and the supernatural. With every mile, Sarah's determination to escape grew stronger, and she vowed to defy the midnight convoy. As dawn broke on the horizon, the vintage trucks suddenly veered away, vanishing into thin air. Sarah's truck came to a halt on a deserted road. The storm subsiding, she was shaken but alive, her ordeal with the midnight convoy over. But the memory of that harrowing night would haunt her forever, a chilling reminder that some roads should never be traveled at midnight.